Greetings. Welcome to another episode of Clear Thinking. In this episode, we're going to be discussing the Western world. We're going to try to get a good understanding of what the Western world has been doing, particularly in the last 500 years. As an African born into this world, knowing the history of my ancestors and understanding what we have been through, it is only imperative of me, it is my duty in these times to speak up and to speak out against the manifestation of the injustice that I've been witnessing for the last however years I've been alive. And it is my firm understanding that what we are experiencing is a grave criminality, is a grave injustice. We have been bamboozled. As Malcolm X says, we've been we've been hoodwinked, we've been bamboozled, we've been deceived, my people. And we have allowed ourselves to become accomplices and collaborators with a system of criminality and injustice. We allow ourselves to become a part of a system and to normalize and to legitimize a system that is about exploitation, oppression, division, and also inequality. This system was founded for the benefit of property-owning white men who believed that they had an innate right, an inalienable rights to be the sole owners of property and power, that they were the one endowed with intelligence, with divine rights to take other people's lands and their resources, and they are the one to enjoy the wealth of this world. This group, this class of people, have been in power for at least the last 500 years. They have went around the world and they have sowed the seed of destruction. Wherever they went, wherever they did, it was all about conquest. It's all about genocide. It's all about stealing. It's all about kidnapping. It's all about enslavement and colonization. And they have built a system for their benefit. This system of capitalism that is intricately linked with the ideology of white supremacy was built for the benefit of property-owning white men, primarily, predominantly. Now, over the years, the people that they have come in contact with have resisted from day one, have been resisting, have been fighting for their liberation, but because these people have had a control of the military power, they have control of significant power, and they've been able to dominate and take advantage of the goodwill, of the humanity that exists in the non-European people that they encounter. They have used it to their advantage. The goodwill, the good heart, the caring of people that they have encountered. They've used it as a justification to wipe out people, to genocide people. And as a result, they have conquered millions of African people and used them on their plantation. In the Western world, they build these great concentration camps, and they enslaved African people, and they genocided the Native Americans. And they have built this civilization that they call America and the Western world. It's built on capitalism, and it's a system that is built for the maximization of profit. And this profit was to be the profit of a handful of people, a one class, one group of people. It was not meant to be shared by everyone. The system was never intended to share the wealth with non-Europeans. They felt that this system was designed for them and to preserve their future, and they would pass on this wealth onto their generation, and no one else was to get any access to this wealth. And they have resisted the struggle and the fight of non-Europeans around the world. Everybody that have resisted and fought for their liberation, we was forced. Can you imagine? African people, non-European people had to fight. Even some European had to fight against other Europeans who was trying to maintain a system of domination with a property-owning class, an oligarchy, and a monarchy in some cases. We're the one who want to own all the wealth. And the people, common people, ordinary people, had to fight themselves, had to fight for rights, had to fight for land, had to fight for bread and butter. And this has been going on throughout history. And who we had to fight against? Who all these people around the world had to fight against for their freedom? Who are these people? Are they some mysterious, are they aliens? Are some mysterious demonic forces? Or some mysterious forces? No. These people who were the dominant, the property-owning, white ruling class, they were the one who was holding back humanity. They were the one who want to keep the wealth for themselves. And they were the one that the people of the world, African people and other non-European people, had to fight against those forces to liberate themselves, to gain control of their land, to gain control of their sovereignty, and to try to build a better world for themselves, for ourselves, and our family. It had to be in a fight from day one. From they brought those transcontinental ships into Africa and load them up with our ancestors and drag them across the world, we had to fight. We fought them on the continent, we fought them on the ships, and we fought them on the shores of the Americas and in the Afrobeans. We fought them. Native people fought them as well, until we was able to secure some type of freedom, some type of liberation, some type of rights to be able to get opportunity to participate in the accumulation of wealth. That was guarded by the property-owning ruling class. The ability for everybody to gain some type of opportunity, to get some wealth, to grow. They felt that they were the only one who was entitled to this type of opportunity, this type of opulent, this type of lifestyle where they can live in a rich and powerful and fanciful, and they reap all of the cream of humanity productivity. And we was to just be their footstool and their servant. All other people were supposed to be here to serve them. So the fact that I'm here talking to you today, this was not expected. It was not expected that the wealth was supposed to be shared with non-European people or non-property owning people. They felt that power and wealth was only for those who own property. The property owning ruling class. So I need to put that in perspective, because sometimes we overlook this and we get caught up in all these intricacies and all these policies and every policy. When you look at the whole political structure, from the founding of America, from the founding of Great Britain and many of these republics, the political organization was there mainly two things: to preserve the wealth and the power of those in power, and to wrestle some of the wealth and power to give to other people, non-property owning people. Whether it be any part of Europe or any part of the Western world, that was the way, that was the whole setup. So the two forces, one who want to retain all the power, and then the other forces were trying to secure some of this wealth and power for themselves and for other people. That same dynamics I've been pushing. So all these policies that you see come about, anything to do with rights, It had to be fought for. And it was resisted at every stage. Every step of the way, the property owning ruling class resisted the fight, the demand for sharing of the wealth. They felt that they didn't have to share it. They were the one to accumulate it, and they was the one to maintain it. And when they die, it passed on to their children. But freedom-loving people around the world decided otherwise. That we are part of humanity, and we are entitled to the fruit of this earth. That if we are going to participate in building this world, we all should benefit from it. And that's a fundamental reality that they have never come to accept. They have this idea that only them should inherit the world. They think that they are the one who should enjoy the wealth and the power. Even to give political access to other people, even to women, were not allowed to assume political power. Were not assumed to be owning. They controlled who was able to own wealth and resources and land. The audacity of these people, the boldness that they can think that they are endowed with the power to be able to decide who can own wealth and who can participate in politics and power. And they have used the political system to maintain their dominance, particularly with the military forces that they have been able to amass, because they have figured out that it's going to take power. The only way they have been able to maintain this dominance is through power, through military power. And they have unleashed their military forces around the world wherever they go to dominate and to protect them from harm and to protect their political system. And that's the only reason why that system is still intact today, where even today people are still fighting for basic necessity. Basic rights are being fought for. And it's a shame on humanity that in 2025 we're still fighting for basic necessity, basic human rights, basic civil rights. And it's only because there's a force out there that think that they are the one who is entitled to own all this wealth, to own all this power, and to have it in their hands, the property owning ruling class. They feel that they're the one who should be making the decision about how money is spent and how resources is allocated. And we shouldn't have any say in that. And as a result, you see, right now, the far right forces, they have taken over power. They have taken over the Western world. The major corporations have taken firm control of the resources. And that's one of the reasons why I'm bringing this up, because maybe we see a lot of these things happening and we are not sure about what's going on. But they are reflecting this founding ideology, this founding drive, that they are the one who's entitled to dictate to the world how it should be. Their values should dominate. This same property-owning ruling class is responsible for the enslavement of African people, the genocide of native people around the world, indigenous people around the world, the stealing of millions of acres of land. Millions of acres of land they have stolen from indigenous people around the world, and countless amount of resources, minerals, and wealth has been extracted from non-European people around the world. And it's now in the hands of the property-owning ruling class in the Western world. And they want to keep it that way. They do not want us, non-European people, African people, working people, to benefit truly from the great wealth that has been created, the vast amount of wealth. And that is the reality that we have to understand. All the policies, and let's go back and look at them. The right to vote, people had to fight for that. Who they had to fight against to achieve that? The same property owning ruling class. The common denominator that you will see as we go through history and look at every rights that people have today. Who did we have to wrestle these rights away from? Who was holding us back? Was there a mysterious devil force or wicked force, some aliens? Who did we have to fight throughout history? Right to vote, the same ruling class. The right to own property, the same rule. The right to citizenship, the same ruling class. Let's go further. The right for workers to organize, that had to be fought for. The right for better working condition, that had to be fought for. The right for sick leave when you're sick and you can go to the doctor and take a few days off to heal and come back and get a job. That had to be fought for. We had to secure those rights. And they resisted it. They felt that they should not be allowed to show no compassion whatsoever for working people. The right to maternity leave, all that had to be fought for. The right to 8 hours a day, to limit the work day to 8 hours a day. If not, they would want to work you till sun up to sundown, until wherever they feel like. So all these rights had to be fought for and had to be protected politically. And that's why they resisted for non-European and non-property owning people to become part of the political system. Because if you have enough vote, for a political system to work, it has to be a voting-based system where the majority would be able to write the laws and implement the laws. They did not want that. They are the minority, and they want to have the majority of the say, the majority of the power, and the majority of the influence. So they resisted this. Every step of the way, the property-owning ruling class resisted sharing wealth with everybody else and opportunity with everybody else and extending rights. The very fact that we even acquiesce into we have to go to them to get rights. That in itself is an insult. We should take rights. Rights should be inalienable rights of all man. But because they had the military power to protect their position, we are forced in a position where we have to go to them to seek rights, to legislate rights for African people and other people. Medical care, we have to fight for them, and they resisted. Even to this day, America is resisting providing medical care to its people, because that is about wealth again. Because they don't want to share the wealth, because it would mean now that the resources that they own would have to be shared to cater for the medical system in America. They want a private system where they're making billions and billions of dollars off people through insurance and other means for medical care. So that's, and if you look again in the 60s, civil rights. In the civil rights movement with Dr. Martin Luther King and all of the freedom fighters in that movement, we had to fight like hell to get basic rights, basic human rights, the right to vote, the right to assembly. Imagine, they were so caught up in their own racial delusion, a racial superiority, that they believe that they're not supposed to share a building or a car or a house with an African or Black person. That they felt that it was better. They couldn't drink out the same water fountain as another non-European. And they actually had those laws in place. And African people out of self-respect and self-dignity had to fight against this. Who we were fighting against to achieve these basic rights was the same property-owning ruling class, mainly white male ruling class. They wanted to maintain that system of dominance against African people. And they definitely didn't want to have nothing to do with providing any resources to African people. After all that exploitation for hundreds of years, they did not felt it was in them to to share any of that wealth. I even give it back because it's not yours to begin with, because we all participated in creating the wealth. The bulk of the labor to create the wealth of America and the building of America was done by African people. And they didn't want to share none of that wealth with African people. And that's the essential analysis that we must never allow them to get away with and escape from that reality. That America is a criminal enterprise. It was founded on genocide and stolen land. It was captured land, as they would say in Jamaica, captured land. And we, as African people, as African in America, or African Americans, have become accomplices, have become collaborators in this criminal enterprise, this racketeering and conspiracy. And we have normalized it by legitimizing it, make it become acceptable to everyone. And our children will be born into become normalizers of this criminality. So everything that we need to function as a human being, we have to fight for it. Why? Why doesn't it come natural or inalienable as it should come to these property-owning white ruling class? Why doesn't it come natural for us to be able to vote and to be able to own land and to get opportunities to run governments and do everything that is natural to everyone else? But notice, they question African people qualifications at every turn. And you never hear them questioning white male qualification. It's as if they're saying that Europeans are endowed naturally with intelligence, and African people have to be questioned about are they qualified, are they intelligent enough. This is the kind of psychology they play. And they play on that psychology of white fear, where they get white people in fear of black people, that black people is going to somehow be dangerous to white people because of the history or the relationship that they have had with black people over the years has been a history of hatred and bitterness and brutality. And they fear what may happen when African or black people become aware of this history. They fear that we may become vengeful and all that other madness, which we have not seen. No evidence for that. It's a rational fear. And that's how they've been able to maintain power, because the Europeans are the majority, particularly in America. They are the majority population. And all it takes is a politician that's crafty, that's opportunist. He can stroke the fear of hatred. He can stroke the fear of white supremacy in these people by turning them against non-Europeans and let them rally for their own defense. So that is now how the property-owning ruling class are rolling. That's how they're operating now. They're striking that fear, they're digging into that fear, and they're using it to gain power and to set the agenda and get it back on track to their manifest destiny. Where they're in control. They set the rules and the agenda. And they're telling us in no uncertain term, we will not be having any diversity, we will not be having any equity, we will not be having any inclusion, and we're not going to be having any affirmative action. And we are not here to help no one. We're not here to spend no wealth to help any nation with any problem that you have. You solve it on your own. We're not sharing our wealth with you. We're not sharing our resources with you. If you examine these people, their political thinking, it's all about sharing wealth, denying that wealth to other people. Don't give them nothing. They're not entitled to nothing. We need to have it all for ourselves. That is the underlying factor. That the wealth should remain in the hands of the property-owning ruling class, the predominantly white male. Don't share it with African countries. Don't share it with anybody. And if you and also they go even further. If you don't share their ideology, you shouldn't get access to this wealth either, because you are a threat to their position. So if you have any idea of equality and justice, if you believe in diversity, in ownership, and in wealth and power, you are a threat to their dominance. Because they don't believe in equity. They don't believe in the equality of opportunity for everyone. They don't believe that everyone should be included in the power sharing dynamic. They believe that right is exclusively the domain of the property owning ruling class, the predominantly white male. And any wealth that's left over should be left there and preserved for their offspring. And that's why they're gatekeepers even in the education department, in the university, where they create the leaders and the managers of the future. They do not want African people or non-European in those institutions. That's why they have all these restrictions. And they're the main ones putting these restrictions in and trying to maintain these strict barriers for other non-European to be admitted to these universities. Because they feel that those should be reserved for white male and their white children. So you see, in every sphere, in education, in medical care, in housing, in property ownership, in political ownership, all of that should be preserved for the property owning ruling class. So over the years, over the centuries and decades, all the policies and the intricacy of policies is either to maintain this wealth for them, or the other force will be trying to pull some of this wealth and sharing it with everybody else. So those are the two forces that we see operating. And you will have all kind of dynamics within these forces. But that is the central theme that runs across. It's about maintaining the wealth and the one about sharing the wealth. Well, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, the oligarchies of America, they're in control at the moment. They're dictating things. And they're not about sharing wealth. They're not about sharing power. They're about consolidating their wealth and consolidating their power and punishing those who don't ride with them, those who don't agree with them, those who oppose this type of domination. They will be using their military force to go against those forces. But the danger of all of this is that the common people have normalized this relationship. They have over the years been in control of the media and the education system. And they have convinced the majority of the people that it is normal for a handful of people to own the wealth, for a handful of people to have all the power. And they decide how they're going to release this wealth and how they're going to distribute this power. They have set up the court system. They have written their own racketeering and conspiracy laws called the Constitution. They have written it, and this is how they want to see it preserved for the future of all, if up to them, all of mankind. But certainly in the Western world, they have dictated and they have laid down the Constitution, and they feel that this is the divine words and divine laws that is immutable, cannot be altered. And then everyone has to accept it, be normalized by it. We have to legitimize it if we want a space in the Western world. They have skillfully done that to us. And what we are saying is that it cannot happen that way. We have to guarantee that every human being is taken care of, that the resources is distributed where everyone get an opportunity to get some of these resources. Everybody, every child, every family should get opportunity to join in the accumulation of wealth and power. There should not be no homeless in this world. There should not be anyone in poverty in this world when one man have hundreds of billions of dollars. That is an insult to humanity. It's insane that we got about, 15 to 20 people owning trillions of dollars in wealth. That should not be normalized. This world can be so much better. We all can achieve so much greater in this world if we just share this wealth, share the opportunity. We now have the technology to make this possible. We have the intelligence. We have the force of history on our side. We should not be allowing the ruling class to maintain this kind of dominance over us. And we sit back and become collaborators and become accomplices in this whole criminality that we see being normalized today as the Western world. So make no mistake about it. This is a historical fight, and the same thing still exists, where it's all about power, it's all about wealth. So you see all these attacks on DEI, the diversity, the equity and inclusion programs across America and the Western world. It's all the same, the opposition to the sharing of wealth and power, that somehow non-European are not deserving of wealth and power. We're not deserving of quality education, high technology. We're not deserving of being pioneers or having position of power where we can write policies. We're not. It seems as if we are not deserving of that. Only white male have this natural intelligence. And we have proven time and time again that they are wrong. And they are still wrong. But it's up to us as people, as common people, as working people, as a community of resistance, as African people fighting for liberation, as indigenous and native people around the world, to unite together, to stand together against this force and keep exposing it for what it really is. It's all about the property-owning ruling class trying to maintain their power, trying to maintain the domination of this world. And we have to fight from the very beginning for every ounce of rights and opportunity that we have had, even to govern our own lives. We have had to fight for that, because if it was up to them, we'll be still under their footstool, still being dictated to, still being used, still being in shackles. They resisted every step of the way. Those are the same people that you see in power today. They are the ideological and biological descendants of those people who want to maintain a world where only a handful of people are in domination, are in dominant position, are benefiting from this wealth and this power that exists today, that was created by everyone. So my people, be aware. Don't be tricked. Don't be bamboozled. Go back and read Malcolm X again. Go back and read Dr. Martin Luther King again. Go and read Dr. John Henry Clark again. Refamiliarize yourself with what is really going on. It's all about wealth and power. And we have to know that. So, I want to thank you for listening to Clear Thinking with Brother Dulani. Remember, every rights that we have gotten, we have had to fight for. Every progress that we have made, we have had to fight for. Nothing was conceded without a fight. We have to unite. We have to stand up and be in solidarity with each other and resist this force, because we have resisted them before and we have been victorious against them before. But we have to now ensure that we don't continue to normalize it. We have to keep speaking out against it and expose it for what it is. Raw power based on military conquest. That's what it is. Raw political and economic power on display in 2025. So thank you, my people. Do join me again for more Clear Thinking with Brother Dulani. Ashe Hotep. Respect.